Death row is meant to be a literal and metaphorical end of the line for many. It's the final step before being put to death. But before that happens, they're granted a last meal. But sometimes inmates have taken that idea and turned it into something, well, odd. Allow us to show you 10 of the strangest meal requests on death row. Number 10. Lawrence Russell Brewer.
As far as driving the truck, but he told a Texas television station that the execution would be a good out.
When it comes to the last meal that inmates have, many choose a more subtle or meaningful set of foods. Some even go for luxury and ensure that they're satisfied before moving on. That wasn't the case for Lawrence Russell Brewer. The meal he asked for consisted of 2 chicken fried steaks with gravy and sliced onions, a triple patty bacon cheeseburger with fixings on the side, a cheese omelet with ground beef, tomatoes, onions, bell peppers, and jalapenos, a bowl of fried okra with ketchup, a pound of barbecued meat with half of a loaf of white bread, 3 fully loaded fajitas, a pizza topped with pepperoni, ham, beef, bacon, and sausage, a pint of Bluebell ice cream, a slab of peanut butter fudge topped with crushed peanuts, and 3 root beers. No, really, he did that. But it gets better, or worse depending on how you see it. He got all of that food and didn't eat it. "I'm not hungry," he said when the food arrived. After that incident, the Texas legislature made it so no one could do that again. Number 9. Gerald Lee Mitchell. Here's one that is very curious when you think about it. Gerald Lee Mitchell was just 18 when he was convicted of double murder, which indeed would mean he would be put to death eventually. This indeed happened when he was 30, and thus his final meal wasn't really a meal at all. Rather, he was given a bag of Jolly Ranchers at his own request. And before you ask, yes, he did get to finish the whole bag of them before he was executed. But why did he want a bag full of candy? Was he trying to draw out the inevitable, or was he just relishing the candy that he used to enjoy when he was a kid? We'll never truly know. Number 8. Timothy McVeigh. If the name Timothy McVeigh sounds familiar, it should. He's the man behind the Oklahoma City bombing. He was put to death in Indiana by lethal injection at the age of 33. He was sentenced to death for 168 counts of murder. Yet, like many, he was given a last meal, and it was odd. He decided he wanted 2 pints of mint chocolate chip ice cream. Not unlike Mitchell, he was allowed to finish them both before he was given the injection. Problem here is one of intent, mainly because people don't think he deserved a last meal, especially one like ice cream, where he could say he got his reward before going to the afterlife. Number 7. James Edward Smith. This one is odd on all sorts of levels. James Edward Smith had arguably the most peculiar request ever for a last meal. Dirt. No, really, he wanted dirt. Why? No one knows, and we'll never find out. But because of the guidelines for the prison, he couldn't get the dirt, so he got yogurt instead. Number 6. John Wayne Gacy.
Him in 2 ways. He would handcuff himself and, like a magic trick, escape the cuffs, then tell his victims to give it a try.
John Wayne Gacy is one of the most infamous serial killers in the history of the world. He was the killer clown Pogo and would eventually be arrested, tried, and sentenced for 33 different counts of murder. He was eventually executed in 1994, but not before getting his last meal. What did he get? Well, Gacy ordered 12 fried shrimp, a bucket of original recipe KFC, French fries, and a pound of strawberries. A very nice menagerie of items to be sure, but what's curious here is the KFC bucket. Why did he want that? Well, because he used to be a manager of 3 of those stores before he went on his killing spree. Guess he liked where he worked. Number 5. John Spanklink.
Well, it was just something he had to accept. I had a pretty heavy faith in my attorneys, though.
Sometimes a last meal can be kind of abused in terms of content, as we've shown earlier. But for John Spanklink, back in 1979, he did his abuse in a rather unique way. Why? He didn't want food for his last meal. He wanted a flask of Jack Daniels. Arguably one of the best kinds of alcohol out there. And because of the rules, he was able to get that. In fact, not only did he drink it, he gave some to the prison superintendent. After John's execution, it became a law in Florida that you couldn't have alcohol as part of your last meal. Number 4. Angel Diaz. While many object the notion of a last meal, many see it as a last comfort to the mortal world before moving on. Thus, why there's a wide array of things you can get in most cases. For Angel Diaz, though, he didn't want that comfort at all. Truly, he decided that his last meal would be nothing. Not a drink, not a piece of food, nothing. The prison was put in a tight spot because of this and thus gave him a standard prison tray meal as a result. But he wouldn't eat that either. Why reject all of this? No one knows. Number 3. Alton Coleman.
Coleman spent his last hours visiting with spiritual advisors and his attorneys until the 8:45 cutoff time.
Alton Coleman was a spree killer, and once he was finally caught, he was put to death, not before having a massive last meal. He requested a well-done filet mignon smothered with mushrooms, fried chicken breast, a salad with French dressing, sweet potato pie with whipped cream, French fries, collard greens, onion rings, cornbread, broccoli with melted cheese, biscuits and gravy, and a cherry Coke. Now, unlike a certain someone from before, he did eat the meal, likely gaining a few pounds before passing on. Number 2, Aileen Warnes.
Cut up, they weren't sliced up, no OJ jazz, And he said I did the most horrendous crime in the whole wide world.
If you know your history, then you'll know that Aileen Warnes was the first female serial killer in American history. She was known for being a bit crazy, and that applied for her last days on Earth as well. Her last meal was just a cup of black coffee, and she promised she'd be coming back. I'd just like to say I'm sailing with The Rock, and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus June 6. She didn't come back. Number 1, Ricky Ray Rector. Ricky Ray Rector, say that 5 times fast, was a man who did a simple yet terrible crime. He killed a police officer. When it came time to put him down, his last meal request was simple: steak, fried chicken, and a cherry Kool-Aid, followed by a slice of pecan pie. Here's where the catch comes in. Ricky ate everything but the pie. He didn't touch it. When a guard asked why, he noted that he was saving it for later. Was he expecting a pardon? Did he think the execution wouldn't take? Or something else entirely? Well, he was wrong, because that slice of pie did not get eaten by him. And there you have it, a look at some of the strangest meals that inmates have had while they were on death row. Can you believe some of the things that people got? Which of these sounds good as last meal overall? Do you know what your last meal would be? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and I'll see you next time on the channel.